What's up, Green Nation? Hold tight, because what's about to go down is anything but just another game. It's the kind of night that makes an entire city shake. The pressure is knocking at the door, the air feels heavy, and everything that unfolded this week points to one destination, a showdown that defines character, that separates those who are ready from those who only look the part. On one side comes a rival built on easy roads. On ours, a team that walked through fire, was challenged, was tested, and still stands at the top. And if you're here right now, it's because you know exactly how big this coming battle is. So strengthen the channel already, smash that like if you're already hyped for Sunday, and tell me in the comments, how long have you been bleeding green and white? The Eagles walk into AT&T Stadium wearing Kelly green on the road for the first time since those jerseys were full-time. Every time the Birds have worn them since bringing them back, they've won. The memories tied to that color hit different. Historic rivalry clashes, physical games, emotional finishes, and it's almost fitting that they'll storm into Dallas with all the outside noise getting louder by the day. The fan base has felt it. The offense has been shaky, inconsistent, frustrating, and yet the team still controls its fate, still leads the NFC, still carries a defense that has quietly transformed into one of the best units in football. That transformation is all over the tape you provided. Since week 1, this defense has become a powerhouse. The arrival of Jalen Phillips shifted everything at the line of scrimmage. Suddenly, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Moro Ojomo, and Jix Hunt are winning more one-on-one matchups. Nolan Smith is violent even on limited snaps. Brandon Graham brings that veteran tenacity that can tilt a big moment. And then there's the second level, Nico Dean playing like an all-pro the last 2 weeks, Zach Bond performing like one of the top linebackers in the league, Jair Campbell flashing freakish athleticism. That trio might be the best linebacking group in football right now. And the secondary has responded too. Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean are playing at an all-pro level. Reed Blankenship remains underrated. Drew Makuba cut out the big play leaks that plagued him earlier in the season. This defense is clicking, communicating, hunting, and if they keep this rhythm, they can hang with any high-octane offense in the league, including the Cowboys, who come in with Dak Prescott in rhythm, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens producing, and Jake Ferguson quietly becoming one of the most reliable tight ends in the NFL. But the matchup that Philly fans are circling, and maybe stressing about, is the battered, disjointed Eagles offensive line against a reshaped and aggressive Dallas defensive front. Losing Lane Johnson for 4 to 6 weeks is a gut punch. The numbers don't lie. The team's win percentage drops dramatically without him. Fred Johnson stepping in helps, and he has played well in jumbo sets, but the continuity issues across the line have been impossible to ignore. Cam Jurgens hasn't been healthy all season, and even when the starting 5 briefly reunited last week, the injury bug immediately struck again. No rhythm, no consistency, and it's shown in the run game. Saquon Barkley's yards before contact plummeting from 2.61 to 1.54 says everything. He's being hit the moment he touches the ball. And into that chaos steps the Cowboys' new interior trio, Quinnen Williams, Osa Odigizua, and Kenny Clark. Williams showed in his Cowboys debut against the Raiders how dangerous he can be in this scheme, racking up pressures and collapsing pockets at will. Add Clowney on the edge and DeMarvion Overshown returning from IR at linebacker, and you've got a front capable of disrupting timing, muddying reads, and forcing Jalen Hurts into uncomfortable situations if the protection doesn't stabilize. Which leads into the elephant in the room. This Eagles offense must respond. After scoring just 10 points against Green Bay and 16 against Detroit, there's no denying that something feels stuck. The concepts have been predictable, the route trees limited. Kevin Patullo hasn't schemed receivers open the way top coordinators do. And while A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith deserve credit, there have been too many plays this year where neither separates well enough on key downs. Combine that with a struggling offensive line, and suddenly every drive feels like an uphill battle. But Dallas defense offers an opening. They rank near the bottom of the league in yards allowed, passing defense, rushing defense, sacks, and interceptions. They've been feasted on by mediocre offenses all season. If there's a moment for Hurts in this attack to finally get rolling again, this is it. The question is whether they can capitalize on the opportunity before the pressure of the moment squeezes too tight. And in the middle of all that urgency sits one more layer, the noise surrounding the team. Reports of tension, questions about Hurts, fans debating the offense, the coaching, the execution. Philadelphia can be brutal when expectations aren't met, even at 8-2 and holding the top seed in the NFC. But this is also the same city that understands the stakes better than anyone, and the team knows exactly how quickly that noise would evaporate with a statement win in Dallas. So as we move deeper into this breakdown, looking at matchups, pressure points, and what truly needs to happen for the Eagles to walk into Jerry World and come out 9-2, I want to know, right now, At this point in the story, what do you think is the biggest factor in this game for the Eagles? The struggling offense, the dominant defense, or the injury-ridden offensive line? Jumping right back into it, because the deeper we go into this matchup, the clearer it becomes that everything hinges on how the Eagles answer the moment that has been building for weeks. Dallas might have the flashy stats on offense, but as the file shows, they've racked up production almost exclusively against weak opponents. They haven't beaten a single team with a winning record. Not one. And that matters, because Philadelphia is the opposite, battle-tested, hardened, and forced to find ways to win even while the offense sputters. That contrast sets the stage for the real chess match here. Can the Eagles force Dallas into the kind of uncomfortable game script they haven't handled well all season? What makes this so fascinating is that both teams come into this matchup with a completely different identity. Dallas is leaning heavily on Brian Schottenheimer's revamped offense, which has Dak Prescott playing some of the most efficient football of his career. The Cowboys have weaponized tempo, pre-snap motion, and spacing to free up CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. They've leaned on Jake Ferguson as a safety valve who extends drives. They've squeezed surprising production out of Javonte Williams, who many thought was washed after leaving Denver. Put all that together, and on paper it looks like a unit that can hang with almost anyone. But the file also shows exactly what happens when this Cowboys offense faces real resistance. Against Denver, they were completely flummoxed. Against physical fronts, Dak's rhythm falls apart. Against disciplined secondaries, the windows close fast. That's why this matchup with Philadelphia's defense is so massive. The Eagles are built to take away everything Dallas depends on: explosive plays, clean pockets, comfortable throwing lanes, rhythm. And trust me, this is not the 2023 defense. This is a unit coordinated by Vic Fangio, anchored by a powerful front, driven by an elite linebacking core, and stabilized by a young secondary playing well beyond its experience level. The difference is night and day. Jalen Phillips gives this group a closer, someone who changes protections and blows up entire drives by himself. Jalen Carter looks fresher, stronger, and more consistent. Jordan Davis is eating double teams like their breakfast. Jix Hunt has quietly been one of the most improved players on the team, and Nolan Smith brings violence even in limited snaps. Behind them, it's Nico Dean diagnosing everything at warp speed, Zach Bond making all-pro caliber plays, and Jair Campbell flying sideline to sideline like a heat-seeking missile. Then you get to the corners, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean looking like seasoned veterans, and the safeties Blankenship and Makuba holding steady. The Cowboys have not faced a defense like this all year, not one even close. But for Philadelphia, the defense alone won't be enough. And that brings us back to the Eagles' offense, which right now feels like a puzzle missing 3 or 4 essential pieces. Not because of talent, but because of rhythm, timing, creativity. Kevin Patullo's play design has been predictable, and the Cowboys will pounce on any tendency. A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith can absolutely win their matchups, but they need better spacing, better motion, more layered routes, and more opportunities where they aren't asked to beat double coverage simply through brute force. And then there's Jalen Hurts. He doesn't have to be perfect, he just has to be sharp, decisive. He has to be the version of himself who destroyed Dallas in Week 1 with his legs, punishing them for refusing to use a spy. The Cowboys have struggled all year with mobile quarterbacks, and Fangio's defense has given Hurts plenty of opportunities to practice under pressure and training camp-style intensity every week. Still, none of it will matter unless the offensive line finds a way to hold up. Without Lane Johnson, everything shifts. His absence affects the timing, the run game, the protection calls, the confidence. Fred Johnson has been impressive in relief, but asking him to replicate Lane's impact is unrealistic. Cam Jurgens' health is still a major question mark, and without continuity at center and guard, the interior becomes a glaring vulnerability, especially with Quinnen Williams waiting to feast on any hesitation. The Eagles don't need this offense to suddenly look like the 2022 version. They just need competence, execution, creativity, because the Cowboys' defense, despite some individual talent up front, has been a disaster on the back end all year. They give up chunk plays. They collapse in coverage. They get caught out of position. If Philadelphia can protect Hurts even moderately well, the opportunities will be there. And that's why this matchup feels so monumental, not just for standings, but for identity, for confidence, for the noise swirling around the team. A win here doesn't just put the Eagles at 9-2. It recalibrates the entire narrative surrounding the season, picking it up right from there, because the heart of this matchup lives in the tension between what the Eagles have been the last few weeks and what they must be on Sunday. The tape from the file shows a defense that's peaking, a coaching staff on that side that has found its identity, and a roster that is built to choke out explosive offenses. But it also shows an offense that has stalled in ways nobody expected back in September, and now the team finds itself in a moment where the unit that was once the engine of this franchise franchise has to rediscover who it is. And here's the honest truth. The Cowboys are going to try to attack every weakness they've seen on film, and they're going to do it aggressively. They know the Eagles' offensive line has been patched together on the fly all year. They know Cam Jurgens hasn't been healthy. They know Lane Johnson being out changes everything from protection calls to pre-snap confidence. They know Kevin Patullo's play designs haven't threatened defenses vertically or horizontally the way they should. And they know if they can get Jalen Hurts off his first read and force him into late pocket decisions, their chances go way up. But that's also where Philadelphia has a chance to flip this game on its head. Because while Dallas front can create pressure, their secondary is exactly where Hurts, A.J. Brown, and DeVonta Smith can take over. The file shows a defense that ranks near the bottom of the league across almost every major passing metric. Bad spacing, slow reactions, missed assignments, corners guessing instead of playing disciplined technique, safeties getting pulled out of position by motion. These aren't traits that suddenly disappear in a rivalry game. They get magnified. And this is where the Eagles' offensive staff has to wake up and self-correct. Use motion. Use rub concepts. Use layered routes. Force Dallas to communicate. Force them to adjust. Don't just run static curls and slants and hope talent carries the day. You want to stress this defense? Move A.J. Brown around. Put DeVonta in stacks. Rotate formations. Let Hurts run early to put pressure on their linebackers. All of this is there on film. The Cowboys haven't handled it all year. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ball, you couldn't ask for a better preparation scenario for Dallas offense. Because if there was ever a defense equipped to expose whether the Cowboys' numbers are real or inflated, it's Vic Fangio's. The file breaks down exactly why. The balance of speed and power up front, the intelligence at linebacker, the ball skills in the secondary. And on top of that, the Cowboys' offense struggles most against disciplined, assignment-sound defenses with strong interior pressure, the exact blueprint the Eagles bring to the table. Dak Prescott's completion percentage and yardage totals are impressive, but when you watch the context closely, his best games have come when the Cowboys dictate pace, get comfortable rhythm throws early, and protect him from collapsing pockets. But when forced into tight window throws, when asked to sit in the pocket against pressure up the middle, when the run game stalls, his efficiency crashes. And the Eagles front specializes in creating those moments, pressure from Carter, disruption from Davis, edges crashing inward from Phillips, and disguised pressure looks that force hesitation. And Dallas knows it. That's why you'll see quick game early, motion, slants, screens, anything to slow down the rush, anything to find mismatches against linebackers or to isolate Adoree Jackson, whom Dallas targeted relentlessly in Week 1. But this is not Week 1 anymore. This secondary is faster, smarter, more cohesive, and the linebackers have been playing downhill football at an elite level. That's why this game doesn't feel like a shootout. It feels like a fight for control, a fight for momentum, a fight for who dictates the flow. And Philadelphia, despite the noise, walks in with more ways to win this type of game than Dallas does. But that circles right back to the real question hanging over this team. Can the offense finally hold up its end of the bargain? Can it execute? Can it finish? Can it stop putting the defense in bad field position? Can it find rhythm for the first time since the Giants game before the bye? Because everything is on the line here. Momentum, confidence, seeding, and the ability to silence an entire week of doubt. So now I want to hear from you as we close this out. Do you trust Jalen Hurts and this Eagles offense to rise to the moment in Dallas? Or do you think the defense will once again have to drag this team across the finish line? Jumping straight forward, because everything now funnels into the final hinge point of this matchup, how the Eagles respond once the game tilts into that inevitable moment of pressure. Every rivalry game, especially Eagles, Cowboys, hits a point where one team takes a punch and has to decide whether to stagger or swing back. And based on everything in the file, this Philadelphia team has shown, over and over again, that even when the offense sputters, even when the rhythm collapses, even when injuries stack up, they don't fold. They lean on their defense, they lean on their resiliency, and they find a way to stay alive long enough to give themselves a chance. But here's why this specific matchup holds a bit more weight. Dallas has built a resume this season beating up on inferior teams, front-running when things go smoothly, and cashing in on mistakes. But what they haven't done is absorb adversity against a top-tier opponent and respond. The numbers in the file show the truth. Every time they've squared off against quality, they've cracked. And when you watch how their offense reacts to defensive fronts that punch back, the cracks spread quickly, rushed reads, abandoned run game, stalled drives, and a defense forced to carry more than it can handle. Meanwhile, Philadelphia has effectively lived inside adversity all season. They played in close games. They've played through injuries. They've played through offensive droughts. And somehow, they're still 8-2 and holding the top seed. That matters. Winning ugly matters. Surviving matters. You don't need to look pretty to build playoff DNA. You need to be tough, disciplined, and capable of bending without breaking. And while fans are understandably frustrated with the offense, that toughness is exactly why this team is built to handle a moment like this. Still, it's impossible to ignore the most glaring storyline brought out in your file. This offense must eventually match the energy of its defense. The unit has too much talent. Hurts, Brown, Smith, Goddard when healthy, Barkley, to be putting up 10 and 16 points. The offensive line, even bruised, has enough experience to find ways to compete. The coaching staff has enough film to understand what's been predictable, what hasn't been working, and why defenses have had such an easy time diagnosing concepts. All of it points to one reality. It's time to break tendencies, time to unlock mismatches, time to return to the creativity that made this offense dangerous. And if there's ever a week to do it, it's against a Dallas secondary that has been shredded all season. This is the game where Hurts can win with timing throws, where Brown can punish single coverage, where DeVonta can destroy leverage if given space, where Saquon can finally run against a defense that doesn't consistently win at the second and third level. This is a defense Philadelphia can score on, as long as they don't self-destruct. Because while Dallas' defensive line is legitimately tough, the rest of the unit is fragile. If the Eagles get the ball out quickly, if they establish rhythm, if they prevent pressure from dictating the flow, they'll move the ball. They'll sustain drives. They'll take advantage of mismatches. And the beauty of it is that the defense won't need a near-perfect performance to keep the game within reach. They just need to keep doing what they've been doing for weeks. And let's not overlook the emotional layer here either. There's noise around the quarterback, around the offensive coordinator, around the team's ability to look like a champion, around whether this group is trending toward a repeat of the collapse that defined the end of 2023. But the file makes a critical point. The 2025 Eagles defense is light years better than the group that fell apart 2 seasons ago. The personnel is younger, faster, tougher, more disciplined, more dangerous. And the coaching is in a completely different universe. This team isn't collapsing, it's evolving. And if the offense finds even a fraction of its ceiling, this matchup could become the turning point of the season. But here's where I want to leave you at the end of this continuation. If Philadelphia walks into Dallas, handles the trenches, protects Hurts just enough, and lets the defense dictate the tempo, do you believe they walk out of AT&T Stadium with a win that silences the entire NFC? And picking it up right from that pressure point, because this is where the entire matchup tightens and the season's narrative pivots. When you strip away the noise, the emotion, the media takes, and look purely at what the file lays out, you see a team that, despite every offensive flaw, has an identity strong enough to walk into a hostile building and drag a win out of it. But they can't rely on the defense alone in this one. At some point on Sunday, the offense will have to answer, and that single moment may define not just the game, but the direction of the next month. This is where Jalen Hurts becomes the hinge. Not because he has to throw for 350 yards or bail the team out with heroic scrambles like Week 1, but because he has to be the tone setter. You can feel in the file how much the offense has depended on him masking issues, protection breakdowns, slow developing routes, predictable designs. And with the line battling injuries and Dallas adding Quinnen Williams, Hurts' decision-making has to speed up. Early quick game, early rhythm, early aggression. He needs to remind Dallas why ignoring the QB run last time burned them. A couple of design keepers, a couple of RPOs with movement, and suddenly their linebackers are on their heels instead of attacking downhill. And when the linebackers hesitate, that's when everything else opens. A.J. Brown isn't suddenly going to stop being a force just because the offense has been disjointed. DeVonta Smith is still one of the smoothest separators in football when the spacing doesn't force him into contested situations every snap. The Cowboys secondary has been a problem all year, and the matchups are right there on film. They struggle with physicality, they struggle with double moves, they struggle with in-breaking routes when the timing is clean. This is where the Eagles can steal chunk plays, not by forcing go balls into double coverage, but by attacking bodies, leverage, and tendencies Dallas hasn't fixed all year. And then there's Saquon. It's impossible to evaluate him behind an offensive line that's been rotating pieces like a preseason unit for months. But when the file breaks down the Cowboys' run defense ranking near the bottom, it exposes real daylight for a back who only needs one crease to punish you. If Cam Jurgens can stabilize even a little and the Eagles can generate movement at guard, Barkley can finally get back into a rhythm where he's not met the instant he touches the ball. The Cowboys' linebackers and safeties do not tackle consistently well in space. That's an advantage Philadelphia can't waste. But here's where everything condenses into the heart of this game, the mental edge. The Cowboys crumble when hit first. The Eagles, for all their flaws, respond. The file shows it over and over, games where things weren't pretty, where the offense stalled, where the defense had to deliver 4 quarters of punishment, and somehow, Philly still walked away with a win. You cannot teach that. You cannot manufacture that. It's the difference between a team built for late-season football and a team built for highlight reel wins against bad opponents. And this Sunday, that difference is going to decide everything. If the Eagles jump ahead early, Dallas is in trouble. The Cowboys' offense doesn't operate the same when trailing. If the defense drags them into long third downs, into uncomfortable pocket movement, into tight windows, Dallas becomes ordinary. And when Dak Prescott is forced to play from behind against a defense with this much speed, disguise, and interior pressure, the cracks widen fast. That's why this is the most favorable matchup the Eagles' defense has seen from a playoff contender all year. On the other side, if the offense simply avoids self-inflicted mistakes, no killer sacks, no drive-derailing penalties, no missed reads on third and manageable, they'll find opportunities. Dallas doesn't stop good offenses. They survive them. Sometimes, against the Eagles' talent, survival won't be enough. This game is not about explosive plays or flashy stats. It's about control, execution, responding to the moment. And Philadelphia, for all the skepticism around the offense, walks into AT&T Stadium with the advantage in the trenches, defensively, the advantage in toughness, the advantage in game situations, and the advantage in coaching on the defensive side. If the Eagles take care of the basics and simply play clean football, they can silence every doubt that's been swirling around the team for weeks. And more importantly, they can walk out of Dallas at 9-2 with the entire NFC behind them. But now I want to hear it from you. Based on everything laid out here, do you think the Eagles walk into Dallas and finally pair an offensive spark with their dominant defense? Or will this win have to be dragged out the hard way once again? And now we close this out by pulling together every thread that's been building toward Sunday, because the final stretch of this story is where pressure, talent, identity,